So as a lot of you may know, if you watched my last video, I've been playing a bunch of Bleach Soul Resonance, which I'm enjoying a ton. I've been playing a bunch of Ken and Sagat and, Street Fighter and Masters and High Masters, just grinding it out. And I haven't really been playing much Dokkan. I took one of my longest video uploading breaks from Dokkan, and essentially this channel's history. I know this channel hasn't been around long. I know there's not a ton of you, but to those watching, and to those who maybe regularly watch, which is, thank you if you do, I took one of my longer breaks. And it was mostly because Dokkan's in a bit of a slow period, which is fine, this is normal. But we have right here a video from Ironcane, who, if you're not following, is a up-and-coming, a rising star within the Dragon Ball community in general. I think we all kind of know that. And he says, "Are Dokkan Legends in trouble?" Which is, a very sensational title, right? It's a pretty sensational one. I think most people who look at that are like, it's very attention grabbing. It's very YouTube. But I do think it brings up a point that I make a lot. I like to talk about Dokkan and how it relates to the wider gacha landscape. I do play quite a bit of gacha, and most importantly, I play them predominantly free to play or very, very low spending, as much as just the sub, which is to say the $5, $10 a month, etc., which is about as free to play as you can go while actually spending money, right? It's pretty nothing. In most gacha, it's pretty nothing. So I wanted to talk about this. I want to talk about Dokkan and its place. Less Legends. I don't really do a lot of Legends playing. I just kind of follow it through videos, so I don't have much to say. But I do have a lot to say about Dokkan, and it first and foremost starts with a response from Minato, which we'll get to right now. So here we have Minato saying, "People saying Dokkan is the same, quote unquote, as normal, but considering this is supposed to be a special year," which is very important. Remember, this is not the same dead, quote unquote, period as every other year of Dokkan. This is the special year, the 10th year of Dokkan Battle, right? This is the year that Dokkan proves that it's here to stay for another 10 years. And you might think that's ridiculous, but it's true. We've seen that in animation uptick. We've seen that in original animation uptick. We've seen that in free-to-play and complete rebrands of old, sort of useless, dead content for new players. This is the year that Dokkan needs to show its ass. So, we expected more, especially for two major celebrations, Golden Week and Tanabata, which is now TDC. I think the celebrations last year, they were both better, which makes the slow points feel way worse. And remember, Minato brings up two major celebrations. Minato does not say, the filler celebrations have been asked this year. Minato does not say the dead period has been asked this year. Minato says the two major celebrations that we have had that have been lackluster have been outdone by regular Dokkan Fest, right? And that's a problem. That's a big problem, because this is a year where Dokkan's supposed to show us that, they're sticking their flag in the ground and they're here to, demand that we pay attention to Dragon Ball going into year 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. Right? And Ironcane, of course, saying, "Thank you. I get it's normally slow for both games, but I'm just asking if it feels worse this time around and if it's going to improve." Of course, there are a lot of other floating things in the water, so let me go ahead and grab those and we can talk about those a little bit. So we have three things here rather, I guess two in general, that are important. We have the Dragon Ball Genki-Dama Festival, which is going to be taking place in January, right before the anniversary. Right before the anniversary, this is going to be taking place, right? Rick says Dokkan would probably still have its own anniversary fan meetup event around this time, either for Global or JP, so I'm not expecting anything too big from Dokkan, especially since it shares a stage with Legends and Gekishin Squadra. Everything else will probably have bigger news, which I think is fair. This is going to be bringing out the voice of Son Goku in the Japanese version, of course, the sub, and she's the incredibly talented, just recently given an award, a cultural significance award, which is super cool. And this is going to be Dragon Ball's 40th, right? All right. People are whispering about a possible anime continuation. Maybe we're getting Moro finally, the best arc in Super, by the way. So to have that done, and to have that done with quality, would be incredibly revitalizing to the Dragon Ball IP. Next, we go on to the producer letter at JP's public live broadcast event. Is in exactly 6 days. As of right now, as of recording this should be in 5 days. Here we have Zed saying, I think they'll probably show footage of the new mode here. Rick says, I think that'll be a big focus of this one specifically. The producer's letter is right at the start, so I think they'll officially introduce the mode and say, and now attendees at the event will be able to try it for the rest of the day. This is incredibly possible. Rick does have a bit of a second level of intuition for this stuff, a sixth sense, if you will, and has been able to call a lot of this stuff pretty actively. While I'm not going into this with any sort of expectations oh my god, it's gonna blow Dokkan up again and it's gonna be so crazy, it would be cool if we saw some of that new gameplay, if we got some new news regarding anything, because during the dead period which we're in, it would be really nice for Dokkan to step up and show us something exciting. Gacha games do work in cycles. For example, in Epic 7, the beginning of the year is usually pretty trash, which is opposite to Dokkan, right? It's the end of the year, it's pretty trash at Dokkan. The beginning of the year is pretty trash because they're settling down and then going to go into anniversary for Epic 7. And then they go into anniversary and everything's super hype and there's content and there's characters and every blah, 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 right? The difference is, though, and this is something that Ironcane didn't really touch on in his video, is that the nuisance, the sword hanging over Dokkan Battle, is not just release schedule. It's not just like the material running out. It's what Dokkan is. Dokkan at its base level is a game without gear. It's a game without any real grinding links, I guess. It's a game without, in Honkai Star Rail, and guess what? In the new Bleach game that I've been playing, the Bleach Soul Resonance, there are raid and dungeon modes where you get extra power-ups, and it's literally Bleach Soul Resonance stole it 1 for 1 from Honkai Star Rail. And guess what? That's good. That's a good thing. Dokkan Battle for so long has existed in a pocket where it is not like anything else being offered in the gacha space, but Dokkan Battle as a game existing in that pocket does not define itself as something the genre is desperately missing. Instead, Dokkan Battle in this pocket is sort of just carried by the IP, right? And even though Dokkan does get better and we have greater years and we have great character releases and strong characters and stuff, at the end of the day, we're sort of just still playing, the bubble hopping game, right? And they've yet to iterate on this formula at all. What would be cool is, like Rick says, if we do get that big announcement of the new game mode and it's a hit, then we're in business. However, Dokkan has not been great at adding nuance to its systems, its core systems. Remember, this is a game mode where essentially your 6 characters will split off into teams of 2 with 3 characters each for a rotation each, right? Through that, you'll be able to earn things to upgrade the visual aesthetic of your character card, whatever it is. In this case, it was Namek Goku or something like that. That's awesome. That said, it does not fix the hole that Dokkan has as an experience. And that hole is in regards to the loop. Right now, if I were to get on Bleach Soul Resonance, I would have something to do. And it's not because it's in beta or new or anything. The reason I'm not grinding as much Bleach Soul Resonance as I could, because I could go really hard. I could release a video a day of Bleach Soul Resonance for the next 3 months. Easy. Easy. All right? Because it's a grinding game. There's gear, there's stats, there's, awakenings and stamps and free-to-play things you can get that make your characters insanely strong, and the characters are all very unique, and they have very unique animations, and you can take them against bosses that would highlight the strengths and weaknesses of team building, whereas Dokkan does have team building, but the teams typically are pick the strongest characters. Dokkan has characters who are unique, but the best ones aren't unique at all. The best Dokkan characters are never unique. The best Dokkan characters are usually just the characters who have the most stats and die to the least things. And they don't have these gameplay mechanics that you have to work around to make them work, or these situations that come up that make them explode or anything. They're just the characters that work the best. If you've played a fighting game, if you played Street Fighter 6, Ryu currently is an insanely strong character. Nothing about what makes him strong is interesting. Nothing. But because it's a fighting game, there are top tiers who have interesting game plans, right? They have interesting game loops. It's the reason people play anime fighting games a lot. It's the reason people play things like Guilty Gear, because typically the topmost characters in Guilty Gear, even if they're degenerate, are really unique in their systems. You see a little less of that in games that try to be more like Street Fighter or even Tekken, where some of the kits, quote unquote, are standardized, right? You know? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, of course. There is just sort of a big what if hanging over the head of this entire game. Do I think it's to this degree where it's like, oh, it's over? I don't know if I'd say that. I would just say, though, that Dokkan is not done growing as a game. And I think one of the biggest lies told by content creators is something I said earlier, which is just, it's the bubble popping game, so whatever. Dokkan could continue forward if they so desire. If they want it to be the case, Dokkan could easily push forward into uniqueness and nuance and carve out its place. But as it stands, because I think the fandom is a little afraid of them making mistakes, I think they're afraid of making mistakes, I think Shueisha and Toei are afraid of making mistakes, Dragon Ball as a series tends to just loop back into itself. And last but not least, actually, let me go find something. Last but not least, we also got this, which could certainly be a goof. You know, they said this is official, but it could certainly be a goof, right? Could be certainly be nothing. This could be alpha footage, and this ends up being the greatest mobile game of all time, right? It could be. What it does look like, you know, beyond these 2016 PNGs, is an RPG, and an RPG opens up Dragon Ball and the Dokkan brand so much versus what it is now. I'm not gonna lie. If they make a Dragon Ball game that is closer to an RPG, it is closer to, let's say, Epic 7, or closer to Honkai, or closer to Bleach Soul Resonance, we're in a much better place, I think. Right now, I think the thing that shackles Dokkan the most is just being Dokkan. It's been here for 10 years. They're afraid to change it. And if they're going to continue to be afraid to change it, then we're never going to see anything actually move. All right? The game's going to stay what it is, and until the day it dies. Until people just stop playing at some point. My suggestions for Dokkan has always been, hey, you added character boost to the game. Why not do that monthly? Why not boost a bad character monthly? Hey, you added a new mode to the game, do it again. Hey, you added missions to the game, do it again. Hey, you added a fight that's too hard, okay, do it again. Why not? I don't know. Right now, Dokkan is a little stagnant, and it's not just the dead period. It's not just, you know, the end of the 10th year. It's not just this and that and this and that, right? It is a problem that is emblematic of something greater. And I think Dokkan could be more than this. I think Dragon Ball could be more than this. I think they're just waiting for something to give. But let me tell y'all something. The ghost of One Piece is sneaking up. And if in January they don't announce something crazy, they're going to put out a One Piece Dokkan Battle or something like that at some point. And for me and you and all the Dragon Ball fans in the world, it's going to be raps. Because the one thing One Piece has never been able to do is capture the video game crowd. But when Toei figures that out, it is going to be a very tough day for Dragon Ball fans. I'll say that much. So, with all that being said, let me know how you feel. If you made it to this part of the video, like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club. We'll go make it. And peace, of course.